Today I am like out of my skin right now, just so excited to show you one of the most extreme DIY small bathroom makeovers I have ever done by myself. Since this is a smaller bathroom, I thought this was the perfect opportunity to really dive into some DIYs I've been wanting to test out. Since it's a small surface area I'll be working with on a lot of the things, I won't like get halfway through the project and be like, oh, this is way too much to take on. It's the perfect tester size to bring you guys honestly about, I think it's like 7 to 10 new DIYs that I've personally done. So this is gonna be really fun and exciting. Let's just dive right into it. There is a lot I'll be tackling in this bathroom. I'm going to link all sources of inspiration tutorial-wise down below for you and also give credit when credit is due. We are going to be stenciling the floors, completely stripping this vanity and giving it a new countertop. We're removing that old backsplash and we're going to be putting in a new one that any of you guys can do, and this medicine cabinet has got to go. I'll even be tackling the real dirty projects, which this bathroom lives in Paul's office and he honestly only uses it to poop, and this toilet looks like this whether he uses it or not, and I'm laughing because I hate to but not hate to put him on blast. But it's the perfect way to introduce to you the cleaning products I'll be using throughout this video because we partnered up with our friends over at Truman's. I did not know that this existed, but now I am a forever fan. Truman's ships directly to your house. They send you 4 cleaners with refill cartridges that are all non-toxic. They safely and effectively clean virtually all of your home's hard surfaces. Truman's non-toxic sprays feature an all-purpose kitchen cleaner, a glass and technology cleaner, an all-purpose bathroom cleaner, and a floor cleaner that works on all hard flooring surfaces. Bottles are included, so you will fill up to that line at the base of the neck, insert the cartridge to the top and the nozzle through the hole through the cartridge into the bottle, twist it, and then like magic happens. I would have caught that on camera, but I didn't know that that was happening. It looks so beautiful. The starter kit comes with what you see here, the 4 reusable bottles and the 4 cartridges of all their cleaners. And if you want to grab yours for 50% off alongside a subscription service, you can actually click the link down below in the description box and use my promo code METZ to get started today. But I do want to let you guys know this is only available in the US for right now. I'm doing this tutorial a little bit different. I'm going to be showing you guys naturally how I tackle a makeover. Sometimes I like section it off to make it look nice and neat and pretty, but it's not. So the first thing that I like to do is take any and all hardware, doors, knobs, even shutters in my case, off of the walls. Just remove everything I possibly can to have a smooth makeover moving forward. This is typically easy to remove. For some reason, this one was just a little bit wonky. When I did open the light portion and try to unscrew the screws, they just completely stripped and got stuck in place. I am going to be painting that regardless. I do that in every bathroom makeover. It's just a surefire way to kind of just make it look a little bit more nice, since you'll make it a crispier white. I decided to take out this medicine cabinet. I'm just going to be turning it into like an open face shelving versus a mirror. There's no need for it. Thank goodness there was wood around where the gaps would be between the drywall. That typically doesn't happen for me in makeover, so I'm happy I didn't have to add those studs. I took this large mirror off and it broke just a little bit, but I'm excited it didn't shatter because I bought like a glass cutting kit that I'm going to be testing out a future DIY with this mirror. So don't think I'm just like throwing it away. Then there was this black tar on the wall that I had to chisel off. And in America, if you guys are watching, you guys always call our walls paper. That's, yeah, they're terrible. There's no like brick or anything behind it, and it ends up like chiseling away and opening up at the surface. And you're gonna see that too because I'm removing the backsplash. I wanted to try to remove that half circle tile piece, but it just wasn't going to work out. I ended up removing the entire backsplash, and then there was like this concrete board that I had to remove as well. I then went in with some joint compound and patched it on up, let that dry, and sanded it smooth. I didn't bother texturing it because we're going to be adding a new backsplash anyway. Patched and sanded the remaining holes, and to finish up day 1 and day 2, I just taped off the shower because I was going to be painting that silver railing basically with this appliance epoxy spray paint by Rust-Oleum. I would not do this in a bathroom if you're not planning to make over the entire thing, because once you start spray painting, this black spray paint dust gets absolutely everywhere. I sprayed about 3 light coats every which way you could possibly imagine until it was fully covered, and honestly, for a can of spray paint, this thing is about $5. I let it dry for a little bit, peeled off the tape, and it already looks a lot better. I was pretty happy. While that and the vent that I spray painted were drying, I just spray painted the vent with white appliance epoxy spray paint. I went in with Truman's kitchen cleaner and cleaned up all the spray paint dust from everywhere. Ugh. Keep in mind we are still on day 3, so we spray painted the railing and the vent, cleaned everything up. I grabbed some stripping gel, a paint scraper, paintbrush, and refinishing gloves, taped off the vanity of what I didn't want to get stripping gel onto, and started to lather that puppy up. I have never stripped furniture, and I read that you can start to strip after 30 minutes, but it was just really difficult. I thought that I could just kind of tackle this all in one go, but I found it was way more helpful to let that stripping gel just sit for as long as possible, because when you do, you let it sit for like 2-3 hours. In my case, the paint just falls off. For all of you always asking me how to update your cabinets, I really do think this is the proper way. You have to remove the paint, sand it on down, and then paint over or stain over again. Because I like the natural look of the wood, I went in with steel wool and got into the nooks and crannies that the scraper couldn't get to, and then a tack cloth to remove all the dust. And I just only sealed the 2 cabinet doors that I could remove with the proper polyurethane, which I linked everything down below for you guys. Stripping just that little vanity took way longer than I thought, so that finished up day 3 after I sealed the cabinets only. I didn't seal the vanity because moving into day 4, I'm going to be paint and prepping and doing like a concrete countertop, so I didn't want to spend the time finishing the cabinets below if stuff was going to get onto it. You guys came at me for my green bathroom makeover, so I went with this Silky White by Behr, and I actually really like it. While the paint on the walls dried, I decided to prep the shower. So I cleaned it as thoroughly as possible. I went in with like steel wool and the bathroom cleaner by Truman's. I rinsed that down, came in with an 800 grit wet sandpaper, and sanded my absolute soul out of me. Because prep is key, you guys. So after I sanded, I wiped everything down with a tack cloth. You want to make sure you get all the dust and debris and tape off absolutely everything you do not want to get paint onto. This tub and tile kit is actually available on Amazon, so you can order it. I linked it down below for you alongside everything else. I picked mine up at Home Depot. These do run about $25, and I bought 2 of them. So to update my shower so far, I've only basically spent about $54 versus like $300 to $500 for an entire new shower and me having to demo. You do want to stir part A and B together for 2 minutes prior to putting it into a small rolling pan with a high density foam roller. You can get a larger one if you want. I just started with a small guy to get into all the little spaces and areas. I just felt like the larger foam roller would have been a little bit awkward to maneuver. First coat is not going to cover everything, so don't stress out. This does need an hour at least to dry in between each coat. At least that's what it says on the kit. This does smell very strong, so be sure to have proper ventilation in between coats. So I have like basically an hour to do other things in the bathroom. That's how my mind works. So while let the first coat dry, I updated all the hardware, including the doorknob. Instead of that silver, I swapped it out to something a little bit more chic and cute and black, and just something that's gonna match all the other hardware in this space. After I replaced and installed all the new hardware, you'll see it's more like modern and black for like towel holders and whatnot. I went in and just did my DIY peel and stick backsplash. This was $30, and I was able to do the back of the sink and the side, and also the back of the medicine cabinet, have like versus it being wood. I didn't want there to be an overwhelming amount of wood. I wanted things to kind of tie into one another to kind of bring your eye up as well. Hey Rachel, instead of using a level every time, you could just level a piece of tape directly where you want to line all the pieces up. That's just, you know, a future thought for you for future peel and stick DIYs that we're going to be doing. Like, that makes it so much more difficult. Anyways, you can go in and trim everything out with a sharp razor blade. You can cut them prior to sticking them on to the wall. You can really get creative with where you can put these. Again, I've linked it below for you. I finished up the backsplash just in time to be able to seal where the old backsplash was connecting to the countertop. Since we are going to be pouring concrete, I didn't want any leakage. I then added my second coat of the tub and tile paint and moved on to customizing a new, shell for the vanity, since the wood that I stripped wasn't the best, and even when I sanded it down, it didn't look cute. I purchased 2 sheets of plywood. I cut it out to just match the outside and the bottom piece of my vanity, and then used some construction adhesive to secure it onto the sides of the vanity that I wanted to cover up. I did go in with a nail gun just where it needed, but I tried to avoid making a bunch of holes. From stripping to adding this new wood and hardware and sealing it all up, it's only about $90. Please keep in mind that everything I am doing, I am sealing it up properly with the right caulk and the right weatherproofing, sealant, polyurethane, spar urethane. I have done a lot of research, and you want to make sure that with the materials you're using, you're also doing your research, because you don't want to just start using this bathroom and everything starts to like pop off or get mold. You got to protect all your surfaces. Keep in mind, we're still in the same hour waiting for the second coat to dry of our tub and tile. I cut down the same wood that I used for the outside of the vanity because it has a laminate on it, added some construction adhesive, and decided to glue that to the outer edge of the countertop to make it more square versus like rounded. I want it to look very sharp. I taped everything into place since the construction adhesive is really strong, and made sure that was level. I added my third coat of white to the tile and the tub, and then cleaned up where any of the white may have gotten a little bit later in the evening to wrap up day 4. Kicking off day 5, I decided to cut down some nice plywood that I had on hand to basically cover where the medicine cabinet was inserted into. I decided to add a shelf a little bit higher up. That way we have the opportunity to stack taller bottles on the bottom and then smaller bottles up top, or, you know, just have options. I didn't really change my mind. After I sealed the wood, like the same silicone sealant that I used to seal the backsplash, I did that alongside where the tile meets the wood, and then patched up this corner and let that dry so the concrete wouldn't leak through. Through my YouTube research, I ended up landing on Tasha from Kaleidoscope Living's channel with her tutorial. I linked it down below for you, as well as the card, moving forward as my motivation, because once I poured this Quikrete mortar mix onto the countertop and started moving it around with my hands, there was like no turning back. I started to rub concrete on the outside of that wood that we added to the edge of the countertop, just to get something to build off of. I figured that once that first little thin coat dries on the outside, I can add another coat, kind of making it look like thick concrete, but in fact it's not. One thing that I definitely regret is not really knowing how to do what my dad did with the fireplace base that we made for his courtyard, and just completely smooth it out to perfection. I used a putty knife, and then I found a smaller trowel, and I just did the best that I could with the skill set that I currently have. But I'm learning. While I let that first coat sit, because I'm going to have to let it sit overnight to build on top of it, I moved on to adding these peel and stick shower handles that I found off of Amazon, and making a tub skirt for the very first time to give this shower a little bit more of a modern look. I have a ton of wood in my wood storage, so I just grabbed some thin shiplap from there, and then a piece of plywood that I already had on hand, and did the exact same pattern that I did for my AC unit cover, which I'll link for you guys, the exact same way basically, to create this little geometrical tub skirt moment. I sprayed the in-betweens with some appliance spray paint, and then I also caulked that as well. I added some construction adhesive to where it's going to be inserted into this PVC waterproof frame, and just popped that sucker right in. This build is completely based off of the HDTV one on their channel. I'll link it for you here. They recommended using an exterior white paint, which I did, but I also decided to caulk and then spray the entire thing with white appliance spray paint. While that dries, after the caulk was added in the appliance spray paint, I updated my outlets and the outlet covers to something very sleek and clean where you couldn't see screws. To finish up day 5, I decided to add a mini shelf with brackets right above where that backsplash is to kind of look like the tiles going into it, and giving a little bit of lip for maybe a decor moment or toothbrushes if needed. But again, this bathroom is like strictly for Paul to poop, which is really nice, I guess. What a lucky man. Moving on to day 6, I let the concrete sit overnight, and I went back in with a sanding block. Not sure why I did that one, because it ended up like ruining the texture. I actually found it very useful in my case to get the texture that I personally wanted, using my bare hand, going over with a little bit of water and smoothing it out where needed, and just kind of using my natural skin to make the concrete move naturally. What? You do want to make sure that you have a drop cloth down below properly tarped off because it is a mess and a half. Once I cleaned that up, it was time to move on to something that really frustrated me, but looks great in the end, stenciling floors. DIY Mommy inspired me. She has a great in-depth tutorial. You basically want to prep your floor as much as you can, so I sanded down my tile, I vacuumed up the debris, I went in with Truman's floor cleaner, used that to clean up even more debris, went back and swept it. Prep is absolute key before you paint. You also want to make sure you're taping everything off you don't want to get paint onto, and then you want to grab your Rust-Oleum chalked in the color of your preference. I am using charcoal, and you just dive right in. I painted the grout first with a hand foam brush versus like a rolling one, and went in and covered the tile with a rolling one, the same high density foam that we use for the tub and tile paint. Keep in mind, wait, what day are we on? Are we on day 5? After adding this coat of paint, day 6 came to an end, and I texted Drew like, do I stencil? Drew from Lone Fox, and he was like, yes, you do. So even though it looks great as is, I moved on to one of the most frustrating DIYs I've ever done in my life, and I don't think I will ever do it again. I am laughing because this is actually filmed on a new vlog camera at like midnight. I decided to finally tackle this because I was trying to avoid it at every cost. Okay, anyways, I lined up the stencil. I'm using a 12 by 12, and it still was a little bit too big for this tile, but that's the one I could find closest to the size. I went over with a high foam density roller of the stencil, went in a bunch of different directions. When I popped off that first one, it just got white everywhere in between, so I was like, oh, we'll get better as time goes on. Time went on, it did not get better. I would roll the excess paint off onto the paper towel before putting onto the stencil. I'd wipe down the stencil every single time I went to use it. I would paint in between the tiles to make sure I could step and kind of get the most done. And you guys, I can't even tell you like how over it I was. Some areas the stencil didn't reach, paint dropped in different places it shouldn't have. So literally all of day 7, you guys, all of day 7, I just spent cleaning up these lines by hand. Oh my God, I could cry. I wanted to cry. I think I did cry. Ooh girl, up close and personal. This looks a little wonky. That one's not clean, but look how clean the other ones look. It looks like sharp lines. You go in even closer. None of them are sharp anymore. They're not sharp because I don't have a steady hand, but it looks great from afar. So I am kind of conflicted. I definitely don't think I would ever do this DIY again. It was far too tedious for my impatient brain. I still have so much touching up to do, but you want to go in with the spar urethane water-based exterior and a satin and do 3 coats of that, which takes 3 days, but I still have so much more to touch up. Oh my God. Anyways, okay, moving on. That tub skirt is now dry. I use construction adhesive to apply to the outside of my existing tub and basically just like put that right up onto the wall and added a lip to seal it up. And now we just decorate. Oh, finally. Day 8 was all about finding decor that I had on hand, repurposing some flowers that somebody got me as a thank you present. Those lilies, peeling off that tape to be done with this tile just for the time being, even though I still need to seal it. But all in all, for $500 roughly here and there, because I got to do some returns, not too shabby. Couple of things. You can see the paint where I nicked it at the bottom of the vanity. I'm going to sand that off and refinish it after I add the sealant to the floor. The mirror is hung like spaced from that shelf for a reason. Since that mirror does stick out, if I were to hang it closer to the shelf, you wouldn't be able to like actually utilize the shelf completely. So that's why it's raised up a bit. All in all, I hope that at least one of you takes one little bit of inspiration from this extreme small bathroom makeover. And don't forget to grab your Truman Starter Kit for 50% off by following the link and using the discount code in the description box down below. I am going to sign off. I am so proud of myself, but I am also going to just go sleep for a week. I'll see you in the next DIY.